Jeremy Foley, the athletic director, is not going to get rid of the Florida Gators coach, as much as everybody sends in the emails. So let's go to the phone lines. Let's talk to Kim first tonight. Go ahead, Kim.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
Hey, it's Ken, right?
Kim, K-I-M.
Oh, K-I-M. Okay, I'm just making sure. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, with Maurice Clarett, you know, it's a shame what happened with him. I'm a Buckeye fan, but you know, I think it's a shame that the NFL has a rule. If they're trying to protect the kids from getting into the league and getting hurt before they're physically and mentally ready, that's one thing. But basically, they're taking kids and forcing them to play for the colleges so the colleges can make the buck. And, you know, free enterprise. I thought it was a free country.
Well, Kim, I agree with you that you should have the right to work, but do you think Clarett will be back with Ohio State? I think we lost you. But the big news today out of Ohio State, and this is all conditional, is if Maurice Clarett, I mean, if he makes good grades in school, it's basically what the athletic director is saying. If he's able to stay in school right now, there's a possibility for spring practice he could come back. So for some of you Ohio State fans out there, do you really want number 13 in the backfield with the problems that he's had in the offseason? It looks like he really wants to go pro. I mean, I have a copy of the lawsuit right here, the civil lawsuit. I got that off of the internet. And, of course, the biggest thing that is a surprise to me is it states inside the actual documents, had Clarett been eligible for the 2003 draft, his attorneys say that he would have been a top 10 pick. Now, come on. We all know that that's not true. That's just not going to happen for Maurice Clarett. It's not going to happen for Mike Williams, a kid out of USC that had an outstanding season as well. Let's go to Kurt on the phone lines. Welcome to the show, Kurt.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
Outstanding. Thanks for calling.
I wanted to call about Clarett. I think the Buckeyes would be better off without him because they've got Lydell Ross from Tampa, and the kid gets 90 to 100 yards a game. We don't need Clarett.
Now, do you think Clarett has a viable case here to get into the NFL?
Absolutely not. I think these kids should go to school for at least 3 years and all 4 because you only play in the NFL for 4 years, and then they've got to get a career, and they need to get their college education. I think it's the smartest thing the NFL ever did.
So what happens to Clarett now? Do you think he stays at Ohio State? We just had an Ohio State fan. I didn't get to ask him if he would be able to stay there. Do you think he takes his transfer and heads out of Buckeye land?
I think he leaves. I think he's going to be forced to leave.
All right, thanks for the phone call. And we'd like for you to join in, too. Let's talk to Matthew. Go ahead, Matthew. Are you talking about Maurice Clarett?
No, I want to talk about Ron Zook.
All right, let's bounce around. Not a problem. Go for it.
All right, listen, Florida's going to win soon. Gator fans are going to have to be patient. Ron Zook was a winner when he was the defensive coordinator back in the early 90s, and he's going to be a winner again. But, you know, Chris Leak, he's a freshman. It's his first year. And, you know, you can't blame him for drop passes. You know, the receivers were dropping passes today in the first half. And you can't blame that on Ron Zook, right?
That's true. The players are playing the game. He's just making the calls, and, of course, he has his offense and defensive coordinator making the calls as well. So you're saying go ahead, the youth is there. You're looking at this team 2 to 3 years down the road.
I'm looking at next year. This team will win an SEC championship next year.
You don't think it's going to happen this year? They only have one loss. It could happen. Georgia did it last season.
Yeah, it could. I mean, Leak impressed me today in the fourth quarter. I mean, really. But, you know, Gator fans are going to have to be patient. And you're right. You know, Spurrier was he was one guy. You know, and Florida will win.
First and goal, up and over.
And I agree with you. And I think the one thing that I realized last week when I was up for the Florida-Tennessee game is I was talking to a lot of Florida fans and talking to them. And the one thing they kept pointing out as they were looking at a lot of the high school recruits that were there for that Florida-Tennessee game, the one thing they were talking about to me was this season. They were talking about the future, talking about how all the freshmen they have that are on this team right now that are able to get out there and play, the true redshirt freshmen like Jefferson Dragons, Andre Caldwell getting out there, and of course the quarterback, Chris Leak. If you look at today's game, Gator fans, it was the senior quarterback, Jared Lorenzen, that made the big mistake. And Chris Leak, once he had the protection, he was able to find his senior receivers and his playmakers in order to get the job done. The one thing you have to hand to Ron Zook, and maybe it was because the tradition of Gator football was still there, he was able to recruit. I mean, just stone cold blind, going into folks' homes and able to recruit, and had one of the top recruiting classes. And still the fans are out there and the high school kids are there. They want to go to Florida football. Of course, if they have another dismal season like 8-5 last year, that could hurt their recruiting chances. But I think that Coach Zook is an outstanding recruiter, and you just can't get rid of a guy, even if he has a duplicate season. It's a tough schedule they play. Next week they play Ole Miss at home, have another tough quarterback they have to face. It's another Manning. They have to get revenge from last season, and after that, it's on to play Arkansas and LSU. So we want to hear from the Gator fans. So far tonight, everybody wants them to stay. Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, how are you?
Good, Joe. Thanks for calling.
Hey, I totally disagree with what you're saying on a couple different levels. One, the thing that Jeremy Foley's got to keep in the front of his mind is the financing of the stadium expansion is being done totally through filling the seats in the stadium through the new seats, which are not cheap. Two, the Florida recruiting class of this year was so strong and full of different positions because of the holes in the Florida within the team. The recruiting classes the next 2 years are not going to be as strong as it was this year. I've been a Gator booster for the last 15 years. I do not see how Zook can keep his job.
Well, one way he will keep his job is if Jeremy Foley gets rid of him, then you are right. Those recruiting classes will not be as strong because then the organization will be in a disarray. And right now it's not in a disarray. Foley did a good job of getting it together when they unannounced or they announced resignation of Steve Spurrier. So I think Zook stays at least this season and next season. Now, of course, if they just fall apart and they end up losing the rest of their games, that's a different scenario. But that's not going to happen at Florida football. Coach Zook and his staff is not going to allow that. He does have some young guys, and I agree with the previous callers. The youth is there, and the winning will come, maybe not this season, but the next couple of seasons. I don't see them getting rid of this coach because then I think it would get worse before it would even get better. All right, let's go to our next phone caller here on the Bay News 9 Sports Connection. Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, I have a comment about Maurice Clarett. I think he needs to leave Ohio State. You know, I'm a big Michigan fan. I really don't care if he stays or goes, but his type of behavior that is not exemplary of a player, of even a rookie or a second-year player, that taking money or the type of stuff that he actually did doesn't need to be a part of college football, even though it is a part of college football.
Speak up a little bit more, Mark. I can barely hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
What he did, being a part of college football or not being part of college football, it's still frowned upon. He needs to leave that organization, let somebody else take his place, go to the CFL or any other type of thing that will let him be the player that he is and take money if he's about the money, you know, and let the college program go on about it. He just needs to leave Ohio State.
Do you think with Clarett it's all about the money? That's the only reason? It's not for the love of the game, is it?
No. I would say maybe 9 out of every 10 players thinks about the money in the long-term event of it, but what they play the game for is to play the game. You know, and that's what you go to college football for. You play the game because you love it. The money comes later on. A lot of players think of the money ahead of time instead of worrying about why they started playing the game, and which was for the love of it.
All right, appreciate the phone comments. We're going to go ahead and take a break. I believe we still have that trivia question still out there. So if you have the answer, when did Ron Zook make his first debut with Florida? Call the 1-888 number 437-1239 down there. We have to give you the answer right now. So I guess nobody wins tonight. That's my bad. Nobody wins, and the answer is from 1991 to 93, Florida defensive coordinator and defensive back. I believe one of the fans who called in the show gave it away. All right, come on back. We're talking Gator football, Ron Zook and the Clarett case next on the Sports Connection.